And I'll open us up, okay?
Okay, we're on.
Hello and welcome to Keep Showing Up. I'm your host, Carmen Smith, and this is my son, Jake, today as our very special guest. If you're new here, this is where we share real stories, real life, and real faith to help you keep showing up in the hard places. So I posted several days ago, maybe even a couple of weeks ago now, that I had asked one of my teenage boys. If you're new and don't know, I am a boy mom times 5. 2 grew in my belly and 3 grew in my heart. And 4 of them are teenagers, 2 17, 2 15, and a 5-year-old.
You have to sit up.
So we're videoing and we're recording via podcast. So we are going to do our best to not distract you with our fidgets or noises and things. But if you are just a podcast listener, that's awesome. Welcome. If you are a video or Facebook Live, YouTube person, you have that option today as well. Coming to you again from the comfort of our living room. And today what we have in front of us is some of your questions. Some of you have text, others have direct messaged, some have emailed questions, and Jake has sorted through them. And some are for mom to ask him, and others are for him to ask me. You say, well, why are you doing this? Again, I think the why is very, very important. But my hope and my prayer in doing this is that not only will you grow closer to your teen, but you and your teen together can grow closer to the Lord. And as you sort through some of these. Now, most of these, I haven't scored them to see if they're, light, medium, or heavy.
I'm good at any of them. I don't care.
So Jake says he's ready. He's ready for this. So again, thank you for being here. Again, this is Keep Showing Up to talk to your teenage boys. So I'm going to open up.
I'll ask you that.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. He's gonna open up. If it says mom.
If it says me, you ask me the question.
Okay. So I'm asking you. You're asking me. All right. Here we go.
How do you, as a mom, seek to spend time with your family or your son or your daughter or whatever?
Okay. Again, I'm going to go back to love languages. If you missed J&K's Facebook Live, we talked about a husband and wife. Quality time is one of Jake's love languages. Sorry. It's one of them. It's not your top ones, but it is. I don't know why it's not at the top, but he needs time together. But each of our boys have different love languages. And so knowing Jake's is gifts, I do know that his primary love language is gifts. So it doesn't have to be expensive gifts. Again, spending time together when they were little. And for you, this is a message and hopefully will encourage moms of all ages. But Jake was 4 when we started homeschooling, and we didn't have a lot of money during that time. They didn't know that, but we would go on day dates, and I would take each one of them on different dates, and we would go. You remember what we would do on those dates? Mm-hmm. We could go window shopping. They could usually pick a place to eat, and was it one place or 2 places to go? 2, and we mostly just looked. But every now and then they'd get a little something. And most of the time Jake would choose a thrift store and still does. So just doing what they enjoy doing. That's how we spend time together. So
you ask me. No, don't ask that question. I don't want that one.
Okay. Well, we'll have to. We got to move down so we don't skip them. Okay, so I ask you this one?
Either any.
Okay. So this was a question from a mom. What is his idea of a perfect day?
Well, realistically, my perfect day would be just hanging around at the house, I guess, and not having to do just a whole lot, but being productive, but also not too productive. Which is hard for mom to not be productive because she's a doer. Yeah.
Spaz. No, Jake also, like your fantasy, like your ideal perfect day, no limitations, no restrictions.
Well, there's no limits because we do have Six Flags passes, and I would love to do that.
He loves amusement parks, and I don't. So, but again, knowing his love language, and that's how God has creatively crafted him. He loves thrills and adventures, and I hope and pray one day he's going to design a roller coaster. But until then, we'll visit amusement parks. So that would be his perfect day. Okay, this is, what are our, we might as well tackle this one.
Opinion on social media.
You want to read it?
What is my and Mom's opinion on social media?
I'll let you go first.
Okay, I have all social medias except for Twitter.
And
I don't
you're
know.
15.
Yeah.
And
These
you've had 'em how
people who
long?
are putting social media, giving their kids social media in like 4th grade, that's crazy. That's insane. Do not do that. That's dumb. I think a good age for social media would probably be 15 or 14 or 15. And that's still young. But there's so much exposure on social media, and you got to be careful with it. But like I said, I have it, so I don't know. I guess I regulate it, and so does she.
What are the regulations?
What do you mean?
Like, what are the limits? What are the rules?
Well,
What
with
are some of
Snapchat,
them?
I have to ask to add people. Same with Instagram, I have to ask to follow people. All that kind of stuff.
Limits. We've always had limits. Sometimes they do better at following it initially, though. I think they've gotten kind of slack lately. But initially, it was 2 hours. 2 hours of tech time. When they were younger, 2 hours of tech time is where we started. And again, that's nothing compared to what a lot are doing today. And I can tell by their attitudes and their response times and their focus or inability to focus if they've had more of that. And I would say, and you actually, when we first discussed this, I had a mom actually who had reached out on here and has a younger child, and I think 3rd or 4th grade, and Jake was like, absolutely not, I wouldn't do that. And there is a celebrity, Matthew McConaughey, I'm sure many of you know him, but I saw just this year, his son turned 15, and he and his wife came on and introduced their son to the world, and I thought this was really, really good. Now, I don't agree and endorse a lot of the things, but this I thought was pretty wise, actually. He didn't say the Lord, but I would insert, not allowing your child, and again, I don't know that there's an age. Again, with us dating, the liberties and freedoms that our children have is based on maturity. And if you're ready for it, then we can ease into that. And we've always said what about trust?
You'll trust us until we give you a reason not to.
We're going to trust them until they give us a reason not to.
No
and
Life 360.
Yeah, that's another
crazy
issue.
as it is.
I don't 360 my kids. We can talk about that in a minute. But about social media, he said that he didn't want to introduce his son to the world until his son was secure in who he was. And I would add to that, using wisdom and very prayerfully considering if and when your child is ready, because you may have a 16-year-old who is still super immature and not trustworthy. And if you can't trust your children in person, minus a device, I just think you're opening the door for disaster if you allow them to have social media. Social media messes with them in more ways than one. What would you say has been a negative? What would you say is it something that it's not good for you as far as
like with having it?
Yeah. Or the negative effects it has, maybe, or has had, that you have to be mindful of on yourself.
I feel like it drains you of creativity. Once you get on social media, it's like, oh, I can spend time, because every time you swipe or scroll, there's something new. And you just, I don't know, you lose interest in doing other things rather than just scrolling or other stuff like that.
And that was, as a mom who had, like, Tucker and Jake, when they were younger, like I said, they were 4 and 6 when we started homeschooling them. They did not have devices at that time. The first device that they had were iPads, and that was on up. I'm going to say they were probably, I don't know, were you 7? Mm-hmm. 7 or 8 probably, before he had an iPad, and the iPad was only for learning. Like, I only had learning games and those kinds of things. And then later, probably a year or so after that, they started kind of asking for some apps and things. But social media, you got social media when you were old? 13?
14, really.
Yeah, I mean, he's fairly new to social media. I'm going to say a year and a half to having his own. And I would add to that, I stalk it like crazy. They know that I do stalk it. And so we've talked about having friends online and friends offline, and we could talk for days about this, but the short version of this is I've said what? You have some friends who are safe in person, and you can have them actually in person and online. But then there's other people, I'm going to say people of the opposite sex. So for the boys, some girls, they might be a safe in-person friend, but they're not. They're an unsafe online friend. And that's just the reality, because some people are going to do things, and this goes for anyone, kids and adults, they're going to say and do things online that they would never do in person. So I've had to have that conversation with the boys. I'm going to just say we've just had some incidences that made me very uncomfortable, because I know as a woman what the intent was of this young lady, particularly, who took this picture of where it would automatically take their mind. And I'm like, absolutely not. She is an unsafe online friend. She can be your in-person friend only. And that's it. And so there's that. So but I, as a mom, going back to what he said, the stifling the creativity, that is something that I have grieved, because watching them, particularly as young, they were adventurers. They had their own hashtag adventures of Tuck and Jake when they were young, because they were constantly creating and adventuring and doing things outside, which is what I believe God created, children to do, is play and explore and adventure. And sadly, devices have robbed our children of much of that. So prayerfully consider the maturity of each of your children before giving them that. And again, you know what? If you get into it and you see that you are dealing with a different child, you are the parent and you can take that away from them. It is a privilege, not a right.
But it's not all horrible. Like, not all devices
No,
are terrible. Like,
absolutely.
I use my iPad for school.
Yes, and we have had drawing apps and there are wonderful apps that do encourage creativity. Sadly, even the older that they get, the less they use those, and they find themselves more on social media, as many of us do. The parents, again, they're going to do what they see done before them. So it's a message to us as parents as well, because it can be for good. This is good. Okay, next question. This was a question for me. Well, I'm gonna ask you. There was a question posed from a mother. What is the best way or a good way to show respect to the young men? Because young men are adult men in the making, and women want to be loved and men want to be respected. And I'm seeing that now at even 15, and for sure in my 17-year-olds, they want to be respected. They are young men, and sometimes I do that well, and sometimes I don't do that well. And there's that real delicate dance of, I'm the mother and I'm the adult and you're still the child, but they are becoming young men. And so I'm having to, again, I shared some of this on the Facebook Live with Jason, having to ask, say to them, I have some things I would like to discuss with you. And even with Jake, I didn't say, you're going to go online and do this podcast with me. I asked him, I said, would you consider going online with me and discussing some things? And, he didn't give me an immediate answer, but he thought about it. And then thankfully he responded yes. So asking them, hey, saying that there's a few things on my mind, when is a good time? Because these young men are adult men in the making. And I just know that's one thing for me in our household, asking them. Would you have anything to add to that?
You don't have to know everything, okay? Like, if you have a brother, like me and Tucker, you do not have to know everything. You don't, there's some things that are necessary for you to know, but other things you need to let them handle it and
respect that.
And and
respect their
if
privacy.
it's good with them, then let them have that in their mind.
Which is hard.
Yeah, but it's a big deal, and it makes
so you feel respected.
Yeah, and I feel like that mine and Tucker's relationship would get better because he trusts me to tell me things. Because he knows, I can tell him something that I don't want to tell Mom. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's not that we just don't want to tell you. It's just, it's easier to tell someone like a friend or brother or sister or whatever.
And so moms, that's hard sometimes. But as they get older, making ourselves available to you, but not forcing ourselves upon them, and gotta know. Again, I mean, there's some non-negotiables. Everybody's got to be safe. Everybody has, to be right and, I mean, rightly respected, but in privacies and those kind of things. But understanding that there's a bro code. I mean, I get that, and I'm seeing that the more they need more of that, the older they get.
Yep.
Okay, next question. Pressures on our youth today. A lot of them. What would you say are maybe your top 3 pressures as a youth or young man
When you say
today?
pressures, what do you mean by that?
It's maybe stresses, the temptations, kind of the things that gnaw at you, whether they're right or wrong. I mean,
I feel like today's society is one of the most anxious people I've ever met.
Young men too.
Yeah, well, not necessarily like for guys. I don't know. I'd have to think about that.
Well, I mean, you've got some. I mean, you struggle with a few things that makes you anxious, and then.
But not everybody does. I think that for me that's a big one, but for others, I would feel like. I think that sometimes people my age try to be cooler than they actually are. If you know what I'm saying, like you don't have to be cool to prove to someone that I'm cool. You know, like. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, just be. Just the need to fit in, the need
but
to...
don't be weird. Like, you can be you without being extremely weird.
You grow into that. Would you say that's getting easier the older you get a little bit? Yeah. So.
I didn't want to sound rude. Did I sound
rude? No, you didn't sound rude. Okay. Here was... you can save these because those can be your tips because those are good. But here's some others. I don't remember...
Those are just bullet points. Those are questions.
Oh, these are bullet points you want to point out?
I mean...
Okay, well, here was a question that came. What is school? This is a question for you. What is school like for you? Do you feel heard by your teachers? Do you ask questions if you don't understand? There's a couple. Start with that.
I love school. I like to go with my friends, Tim B.
He's at a private Christian school for those of you that are not local.
Do I feel safe at school? I feel very safe because, I mean, I'm privileged like that. I get to go to a private school. But I feel like for others, like Fort Payne or other schools like that, I feel like...
Just say public schools, period. I mean, you haven't ever been to public school.
No, I've never
I mean, yes, actually you have. He went to county school for a year and a half.
2 years.
2 years. So, you felt safe there. It was a smaller school. But again, Jake does struggle with some anxieties, and so, but how do you push through that? Like, teachers, do you feel heard by your teachers?
Yeah.
All of them? Some of them?
There's one teacher in particular that I feel most heard by, but I'm not going to drop a name.
Yeah, don't drop names. But, okay, so what is it about that person that makes you feel heard? What does that person do?
Some teachers are mean. There's no need for it. Like,
y'all are 15.
Well, some people are like...
I get that.
If a teacher... If, like I was saying earlier, the pressures... Some people don't even want to talk to their teachers because I'm afraid I'm going to get yelled at. Because if you miss an assignment... Sorry, I missed an assignment. I was at the doctor or something like that. There's no need for a teacher to go...
Yeah, be rude.
Yeah, there's no need for that.
But as a teacher and as a mom, I mean, I get it. Teachers have off days too. But again, to consider these young men are adult men in the making, and whether young men or young ladies, they are young adults and they want to be respected as well. So, but I get that, being a teacher of teenagers would be tricky and challenging today because some teenagers respect their teachers and parents and others don't. Right?
I do.
Well, you have a psycho mom, so.
Do I ask questions if I don't understand? I don't ask questions in math. Sorry.
Well, math is a struggle for you, probably because it's a snowball effect. If you ask one, it's going to lead to another and lead to another and lead to another.
So I just hope that I can get it and then go from there.
And he does. He has had, he has people that he can go to and ask those questions. So, do I help at school and how?
Absolutely. I help at school. because I'm the study guide kid. I make study guides for people because my handwriting's neat.
Okay, this is a good one. So those are just some trivial questions. And if you have more questions about that, you can email us if we didn't cover that well. But okay, what motivates a teen to grow up? You give this some thought. What motivates a teen to grow up, to become more responsible, more mature? Now, I'll lead with this by saying our motto at this house has always been, do not do for children what they can do for themselves. And we have had an ongoing narrative, even to the point that it actually exhausts our children, is like, if we've always said that you're going to be on your own. We're pushing towards independent, successful young adults. We want you to find your 10, whatever that thing is that you love, could do all day long, that you're really good at, and we're pushing you towards that. That has been an ongoing narrative, wouldn't you say, pretty much your whole life?
Absolutely.
Like, you ever remember a time that wasn't a part of your life? So we've never been those parents that said, oh, you can just live here with us forever. Like, we've even hurt Jake's feelings sometimes because... well, like when he was younger, and he would be like, well, I don't want to leave. And I mean, now he understands that that's part of the process. But again,
not saying you have to, like, I'm graduating young, so I don't know when I'm going to move out. I mean, I'm going to move out pretty soon, but not saying that you have to, like, get out of my house but you need to push it so that you can let your kid know that you're not going to be here forever. And I think that motivates us a little bit to kind of get our crap together so that we can be like, okay, I've got this much time to move out.
So you appreciate the reminder.
Oh,
so
yeah,
it's good to be reminded. So again, yes or no? Okay, so that has been an ongoing narrative for us. But again, weaning, like what have we been saying? Raising the bar. For Jake, this year, 15, we've been raising the bar. We let our children, here's a huge thing that I think affects a lot of people today. Sports, of course, is a huge thing. The rule in our house, pick one. Pick one. Because, number one, the percentage of actual teenagers that are go on and going to be like Money Mac and, McPherson, who's going to make a career out of being a professional athlete, are minute. So we want you to learn the things that are good to learn in playing a sport in high school, but we want you to learn to work. And we're going to provide opportunities for you to learn to work, because you know how you're going to make a living? Working. And so here we have always, young, our kids learn to do chores. They've had chores always. And then the older they got, the more the chore load, or the more, laborsome maybe the chores were. Whether it be at first, you're bringing in wood, and then next you're splitting wood. So wood's always been a part of their life, always. And so again, first you're handing daddy tools, building a fence. Next you're digging the fence post and building the fence yourself. So those little things, pushing your children young, and I say this I'm an early elementary school teacher, K through 6. I teach preschool right now. We have one who's 5. He is learning to do things even now. You can water the goats. You can make sure the chickens have water. You can help us pick up eggs, little things. And you can help if you say, well, I don't live on a farm. Okay, that's fine. Let them fold the laundry. Let them empty the dishwasher. The boys emptied the dishwasher. If they couldn't put up all the dishes, they could put up silverware. They could take out the trash. They could get the clothes from the dryer to the couch. Letting your children learn to work and hold them responsible is huge. And that has to start early, because if they don't start working as a kid or little and have chores, then when they get as a teenager and you start asking them to do things, who are you? And what'd you do with my mom? My super chill mom. But it's just always been a part of who they are. And so if you're not doing that, start now. And if you are already currently doing that, that was something too, learning as we go and growing as we go too, but finding those, we have one he's kind of our mechanic, and he can fix anything. And then, we've had others that are strong and others that can't handle multi-step. So they have to do a simple task every single day. So finding the chore that fits the maturity and the age of your child and then letting them go with that. But as far as motivating them to grow up, like he said, we've had that ongoing narrative, letting them know, hey, we got a year. Where we at? I mean, they all have to buy their own cars. I got 2 that are fixing to turn 16, and they don't have as much money saved as the older 2. And I said, well, that's awesome. I hope you have good friends, because I'm not buying them a car. And so, I don't know. Would you add anything to that?
Let them fail.
Oh, that's good.
You don't have to baby your kid every step of the way. So I think failure is a big learning process so that you can learn that I can or cannot do such a thing, and it pushes yourself. That's for adults too. Let yourself fail. Well, not let yourself fail.
Well, those are super mature. Those are yeah. I mean, absolutely. Let them
failure
fail.
Is
great motivator for the young and the old. And I love what Chip Gaines, he wrote a whole book about it, capital gains, teaching your children early, another narrative here, that with every loss is a gain. That's what that whole book is about. Chip and Joanna Gaines have built this, dynasty, but he talks about how every single one of their losses, whether it be a financial or just a disappointment or whatever, he gained something from it. So it's a great perspective, and that's something that we've kind of encouraged, especially as the boys get older. What can we learn from this? What can be our takeaway, even though this didn't go like we thought it would or should? And a lot of things have happened that way. And it's good to have those ongoing lessons. Okay. All right. This will be good. So, Jake's got a few points.
Hang on, what question does that come off of?
I'm not sure.
Conversation. Here's some tips from my perspective. Have simple conversations daily. I think that's super important. Even if it's not long, it doesn't have to be deep. It doesn't have to be insane. But I think it builds trust in a big way, because you slowly learn throughout time that, I can trust this person. And be easy to talk to, because nobody wants to talk to a monster. And if you're just going to blow up and force your opinion and be like, that's not happening, then there's no need. I'm never going to want to talk to you if you're going to be a turd or a monster. And then I said...
We'll pause for a second. So, and that's... I appreciate that he says that. So we wouldn't you say we've pretty much always talked?
Me and you?
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah. Now Jake's chatty. I have others that aren't so chatty, but just listening. And this, a lot of you young moms, maybe you don't know this yet. Some of you more seasoned and older moms do know, but if you don't listen to the little things, when Jake was young, his was superheroes and power and magic and imaginary things and roller coasters. I listen to a lot about roller coasters, but you know what? He'll talk to me about other things too. And so had I not listened to those things, he'll be like, well, she doesn't care about any of that. So if we don't care about the little things, they don't think we care about the big things. And that's just true. So I can tell you, you're talking about not being a monster. I have been a very scary monster more times than I care to count. And there were times when they were little. I remember on a Mother's Day. Do you remember one Mother's Day? They were fighting over who was going to drive the four-wheeler and over who was in the front.
They ran into a crepe myrtle.
Yeah, one of them revved it up and just mowed. When I say mowed down, I'm talking about broke it off at the base, at the trunk. Just broke it off from the ground.
The crepe myrtle.
Yeah. My beautiful, beautiful crepe myrtles that I loved so very much. And I remember I just physically held my hand over my mouth, and I got in my car and I drove away to my sister's house and cried on Mother's Day so that I didn't cuss my kids on Mother's Day. Remember that? So do whatever it takes. You have to walk away sometimes because, again, the monster comes out, but just knowing that our words matter. Something that Jake and I, have always done.
Use humor. It's fun to talk to somebody who's funny.
Yes, it is. It's fun to talk to somebody who's funny. Be funny. I'm not funny all the time. Jake's way funnier than me. He's way funnier than me. And we have some not funny people here live here, and that's fine too. And we make fun of them and sarcasm, and we just have fun, and don't take yourself too seriously, right? Mm-hmm. Don't take yourself too seriously.
That's another, like, awkward conversations, if you know what I mean, are a lot easier to talk to if you are funny. I mean,
right.
Because if you're just like,
I'm going to throw this out here because it's Christmas
season.
Here's
how it works. But nobody wants to hear that. It's disgusting.
That's hilarious. Okay, so when they were little, so since he went there, I'm going to go there for about 1 second. I'll be careful. But he it had to happen. We needed to have some of these conversations, and some it has to happen earlier and some it has to happen later. But again, meet them where they are, answer what's necessary, and go from there, okay? And so sometimes they needed a blanket over their head. Sometimes they needed a pillow in front of their face. But the conversation had to take place, you understand? So again, like he said, and because it's Christmas season and because of Elf, that's something that we have used a lot, okay? To quote Elf, like, does this person make you feel warm? Is your tongue starting to swell? That to use these signs, as cues, warning signs, to know our limits. And we've always, always, always had the ongoing conversation with our children to use their mind and their mouth and their bodies to honor the Lord. And doing these things, which wink, wink, that's how we'll leave it. Careful. I was very seriously forewarned about this topic, but moms, you hear me, and teens, you hear me. Again, the conversations have to take place. So you decide what they need to be comfortable in order for that to take place, and talk to them about what's natural, talk to them about what's not natural, and for sure talk to them about God's design for all of this. Because again, when you allow God into those conversations, which we haven't discussed that, but this is a perfect way to kind of move towards the close here because we got about just a minute or two. Always inviting the Lord into those conversations. When he was little and there was fear and anxiety, we put up scripture teaching him to do that. Bringing the Lord into we've had conversations about music and movies and why can't I listen to this and why don't you want me to go watch that, and let me see if you can off the cuff. What's my number one go-to question?
How does that honor the Lord?
There it is. Yes. How does that honor the Lord? How does that honor the Lord? And they've asked me. Again, I've been fearful about certain things or not wanted to do certain things, and they're good. He's especially good to call me out. The other one is too. Some of them are. And because, again, none of us have all this figured out. There are no perfect children. There are no perfect parents because there are no perfect people. So,
what were the questions that my friends asked? Or we're going to
I asked some of his friends recently. I said, what are some absolutes that you will not talk to your mom about? And the majority in the room, minus 1 or 2, was girls. They don't want to talk to their moms about girls. And most of them said they didn't want to talk to either of their parents about girls. Well, I encouraged them to talk to somebody. And I told them that, we could discuss it as a group. Hadn't any takers yet. We'll see how that goes. But again, they need to be encouraged, but you got to go back and you say, well, what if it's too late? I don't think it's too late. If you go to your kid and your teenager and you say, look, you got to start somewhere. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't you say that if a mom comes to one of these kids, let's just say hypothetically one of your friends, and their mom was to come to them and say, you know what? I'm sorry that I've not made myself more available, or maybe we haven't talked about this before now, but just letting that child know or that young adult know that you're available and that you're there. And I've told mine always, ask me, not Google. Ask me, not Google. If you need me to put a blanket over my head or you want to put one over your head, but whatever. And thankfully, I've had them write them down before. I've had them, some of my kids don't want to talk to me in person. That's okay. Write your questions down. We've had a working journal before, those kinds of things. And then the other thing that I asked some of his friends was, who had you rather spend time with? And most of them said their dads. They love for their dads to do stuff with them. That's normal. And especially the older that they get, the more time that it's good for them to spend time with their dads. But they all need their moms too. And so, does that about cover it, I think? So we hope that you got something that comes to you as we wrap?
I said yesterday that having a mom that won't talk to you is just like having her not even exist. And as... What?
That's sad to me. Go ahead.
Oh, well, that's exactly how it feels. So, even like I said, even if it's bye, love you, have a good day at school, or how was your day today? What's something that happened?
Oh, that's something hokey we did, wasn't it?
A little bit cringe.
A little bit cringe, he says. But we did that at the table. Be like, oh, what's something fun that happened at school today? Or, oh, what was something that you learned today? I mean, super hokey stuff. But, I mean, it builds relationships. It provides opportunities. Sorry, that's my Instant Pot.
I need to go stop it.
No, it stops. All right, what was the other thing?
I was going to say, and then... I forgot what I was going to say.
Well, that was good. Having a mom that won't talk to you is like not having one. That's sad. So we don't want to do that. So again, I hope that this encourages you. I appreciate Jake being willing to come on here and be brave. That was something, the one thing, if I could go back and, there's a lot of things I would do over. The one thing that we got right, and I praise the Lord, I give him all honor and glory, is when the boys were young, teaching them to do one brave thing a day.
She would make us go talk to the mean mail lady with a mustache.
We had, if whether it was place your own order at McDonald's, look at the lady in the eye. Here, you go pay for our food. Here, go pay this bill for me. You're going to pay the cashier for the milk, whatever. Pump the gas. It was teaching them early to do one brave thing a day. So they've spent their lifetime learning to be brave. And so I guess that made this a little bit easier. Maybe.
Well, yeah, probably so.
So,
not that I was too worried about it in the first
but
place.
anyways, so thanks for showing up today, and I pray that this conversation with one of my youngers, encourages you. And just start small. Start with something. If your kids are young, you got lots and lots of opportunity. If your kids are older and you think, man, I wish I'd done that, start now. Start small. Take one small step, do one brave thing, and challenging them and them challenging you, and doing those brave things together, and just making each other a priority, and take yourselves too seriously.
Yep.
We have a funny ongoing, that is something that we do, is share funny reels with one another. Yep. Funny stuff. So it's just good. Those are just relationship building things. So I pray that this encourages you to keep showing up, to have those conversations with your teenage boys. Thank you for being here. Like, share, subscribe. What are all those things? Jake says some of his friends call this the Carmcast. It's not.
It is the Carmcast.
It's not. It's just whatever. I pray this encourages you to keep showing up in those hard places. Jesus did, so we can. And thanks for being here. All right, you can stop that.
Thanks for joining us on the Carmcast.